So here we have a McMurdo Silver Masterpiece V with the main tuner chassis on the bench, accompanied by the power supply and audio amplifier chassis. And sitting under the bench is the massive supergiant 18-inch electrodynamic loudspeaker. And that's coupled to the power supply chassis, and the power supply chassis is coupled to the tuner. So I've been working on this for a couple of weeks now, and it's now working. I've recapped it. All the capacitors you can see, all the tubed paper capacitors under the chassis, are all either restuffed originals or reproduction ones to make it look fairly original underneath. This resistor isn't coupled into the circuit at the moment because I'm having some issues with the expander circuit. As shown in the schematic, it doesn't work. So I've been looking to see what the problem is. I think I've got it resolved. The expander's working, but not with the original resistor values in there. So all these hookup wires you can see to various things. There's the oscilloscope connected to it, a couple of meters over there, a couple of meters over there, and one of the meters over here. So there's a lot of connections in here because I'm monitoring the voltages as I'm doing the various adjustments. So I'll power it up, and I'll try and demonstrate the expander on the scope, and just have a little listen to it. It's working good on all the bands except the highest frequency band, which goes from 17 megahertz to 65 megahertz. And I found that is working on the upper part of that band above about 40 megahertz, but below 40 megahertz the local oscillator cuts out. So there's a problem on that upper band. So I haven't even bothered looking at that yet. I just did a little tune around to see if it was working on the other bands other than broadcast band, and it was, but there's a problem on that one band. So this is a 20 tube receiver. So 6 tubes are on the power supply and audio amplifier chassis, pair of push-pull 6L6s for the output, giving about 35 watts. And the rest is a really good looking chrome-plated chassis, which you've probably seen before. But all these screening cans have been pulled off and recapped underneath those. And it's really just going through some troubleshooting phases now, which is to be expected on a receiver dating from about 1936 that's been completely recapped by me, and also it's been worked on by many other people in the past probably. So anyway, I'll switch it on. It's working through a Sencore power supply, so isolation transformer. So it's now powered up, and see the voltages are starting to come up there. See the audio in a minute. There we go. And so the scope is connected to the output. So I'll switch the expander off. The expander's now off. I'll put it onto a talk show station.
And Montreal's structure, they work hard, they've been fine. But what is it with these amateur turnovers all over the ice, man? Like, this is the thing that bothers me, right? Like,
so on this particular local station here, this vacuum tube voltmeter over here is measuring the AGC voltage, and it's so strong. It's pushing about 17 or 18 volts of AGC. All of the other stations locally maybe bring in about 10 volts at the most, but this particular one is a very strong station. So I've got to reset the vacuum tube voltmeter there. And the tuning eye is completely closed. The tuning eye is around the front here.
Where it looked like we called it beer league hockey, bad beer league hockey, with the turnovers and just the odd man rushes and breakaway after breakaway and meltdown after meltdown. And it was low.
So it's got
it was what are we watching?
bass,
and then they lost one more bad game to Montreal, and that's when
treble.
The market was ready to explode, and then they reeled off 4 wins in a row. So this game does not undo the 4-game winning streak or anything like that, but it is
No.
reminiscent of that.
Watch the average audio level on the scope there, just on the voice. switch the expander into the circuit. Initially it cuts the volume down. As you increase the expander, the overall dynamic range increases considerably. It's most noticeable on music, but if I play music, YouTube will edit this off. It won't post the video because it's got copyrighted music on, so I'll just have a voice on there. But the expander really does increase the dynamic range amazingly. See, it's going completely off the scale now on the voice peaks. Compare it with it switched out. Back in again.
They've been dreadful. Now here's the thing, right? And we'll do a lot of this in the post-game show, but there's micro and there's macro.
So this is it's quite an interesting receiver, but as I say, there's something not right with the expander circuit at the moment, and I've had to change the bias on the expander tube to get it to work, and it is working correctly now, but the resistors in the bias network are completely different to the ones shown on the schematic. Anyway, there we are. It's McMurdo Silver MP5. Still a work in progress, but it does sound really nice on music now. And try and get this expander circuit sorted out. And also the screen voltages are higher than the schematic shows. I can't figure that one out yet either. But hopefully in the next few days we'll get that resolved and do an alignment on this. And it'll be returned to the Spark Museum in Coquitlam, BC, where it belongs. And hopefully they'll get a chance to play it in the museum sometimes.